So yes, without further ado, let's go into today's presentation. Okay, so right, let's start at the beginning. So the whole idea is write, right? So it's a homonym, right? Guiding a guide to academic writing in English. Okay, so a little bit about me. Dr. Hiram has introduced me, but I'll just give you a little bit more about myself. I've been doing proofreading editing for 5 years, but I only started doing it as an official registered business in the last 1 year. So I have my PhD in management from UPM. I graduated last year. Right. So yes, I do proofreading, editing, paraphrasing, translation, consultation, everything on a whatever related to writing, whatever to do. Right. So these are some of the topics we're going to cover today. So as Dr. Hiram said, we do not have that much time. So I'm not going to go too into detail about each of these topics, but I will cover as much as I can. All right. So the first thing is most people don't understand what is the difference between editing and proofreading and writing. So where do each of these elements come into the research process? Okay, so as we all know, writing is a nightmare. Okay, no one gets a perfect first draft. No one gets it right the first time.
Yep.
So it's not that you're going to write and everything is going to fall into place, right? So writing is definitely the most difficult part of the research process. Even for those who have good command of English, those who are used to writing, getting started is very difficult,
Mm.
especially when it comes to your thesis. It can be very intimidating, right? The fear itself, when you think of how much you have to write, 3 chapters, 5 chapters, that can already be a mental
Yeah.
block for you. But the idea is start with small, break it down into small sections, maybe write an outline. Some people have found using tables to be beneficial. So you have a literature review table. So
Mm.
start with an outline, start with point form, and then expand from there. So the idea is that your first draft will be bad. Okay,
Mhm.
even if you are Shakespeare, your first draft is not going to be perfect,
Yep.
and that's okay. So do not strive for perfection. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Okay, the writing process does not have to be perfect. It just has to be done. Okay, so
Mm.
a done thesis is better than a perfect thesis.
Right.
Okay, and I have been approached by some people who said, can you help me write my thesis, can you help me write my project paper assignment? The answer is no. Of course, there are people offering these services. There are a lot of assignment submission services. But as a thesis, it's your research, it's your work for 2, 3, maybe 4 years
Mm.
of your work. So the writing stage is very much yours. Okay, so you have to take ownership of that and just do it. Just do what you can. Okay, so that's the first stage, writing. So it gets better from there. So don't be afraid. Just get started and do it. And this is the beginning of the process.
Mm.
Okay, now then you come into editing. So this is the most time consuming part, because excuse me for a second. All right, so this is the most time consuming part, but it is the most important, right? So the editing process might take even longer than the writing process,
Mm.
because you are going to refine, rewrite, reorganize. So like I said, the first draft is going to be bad. So the editing process is where you perfect, and I wouldn't even use the word perfect, it's where you improve on what you have already written. Okay, so it takes multiple attempts. So like I said, you're not going to edit your thesis in a day or even a week. You might come back to the chapter again and again. And I'm sure many of us have felt the frustration of your supervisor saying, no, that's not good. Let's change this.
Mm.
Not good enough. Let's change this. Why not we put this variable in? All this happens. So this is the editing process. And you just don't give up, right? That's just how it is. Now, I do editing, but the idea is that yes, you can outsource editing. So you can have a rough draft and give it to an editor and ask them to perfect it or polish it for you.
Mm.
But like I said, it's still your work. So you cannot give it to an editor without even trying first, right? You will still will have things to add, things to edit, things to remove. So make sure you have done the most that you can before it goes to an editor. Okay?
Mm.
So just like Dory, just keep swimming, just keep editing, don't stop.
Mm.
Okay? Right. Now, after you have done all this, you have done editing, you have added, you have removed, you have done whatever is necessary, that's where proofreading comes in. Now, you should only move into this stage when you have finalized your content, right? So oftentimes what happens is I get people who send me their thesis or their articles and they said it's ready for proofreading and I do the work. And later on, I realized that they have, when they give it back to me, there's a comment from the supervisor or comment from the examiner, reviewer. I realized that they have actually edited after I proofread. So that is not good. Okay, so that because that is a waste of your effort, it's a waste of my effort or the proofreader's effort. So move into this stage once you are very sure. So proofreading involves correcting typos, grammar, citation format, punctuation, sentence structure. So this part is very much language based. So there was a study conducted in a Western country that said that our brains actually trick us when we read our own writing. So we might have spelled the word lemon as melon, but your brain sees it as lemon. Okay, so that is a trick of the mind, a trick of the brain. You see what you thought you wrote, which is why it's always good to have a second pair of eyes to check your language for you. Now, even though you're a great writer, you're an expert in your field, and your content is very good, you have done amazing research, grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, typos, this can compromise the quality of your work. So it gives a bad first impression to the examiner or to the reviewer who's reading your work, even if you have done really solid work. So how you deliver is very important. So that's why sometimes you need to outsource it if you lack the expertise. And that's fine. Not everybody is an English expert. So you must know when to seek help when you need it. Okay. So now that's the difference between writing, editing, and proofreading. So make sure you go through each of these stages at the proper times with the proper guidance. Okay, so know who you need at each stage. Right, so that is the first topic. So what we want to do is take your first draft from this and change it into this. Okay, right. So now this is the my favorite part actually because I like to complain. Right. So top 5 writing mistakes that I see. So I'm ranking it in order of the smallest mistake to the most serious mistake. Okay, so the smallest mistake, I mean, common lah, it happens very often is wrong citation format. So now, when we do our thesis, we typically follow the thesis of people we have read before us, or just APA format. But I think it's important to pay attention. Read your university guidelines or the general guidelines. So see if it's APA, Harvard, MLA, etc. Even some journals they say APA, but their referencing section they have required that certain things like the et al must be in italics, things like that. Very small details. So you must pay attention to that. Practice, practice, practice. So when it comes to referencing, when it comes to citation, people say it's too difficult. I don't know how to cite. I don't know how to do referencing. Practice. Over time, it will become second nature to you. You automatically know, okay, this is how a citation should work.
Yeah.
Okay. And these are the common mistakes that I find. In-text citation should be alphabetical, and these are the 2 mistakes. In a thesis, all authors should be cited when you are first citing them, up to 6 authors. Okay, that is the format of most university theses. After you have cited the first time, so let's say A, B, C, D, and E, 2015. Then the next time you put A at all, 2015. Okay, so now let's do a little activity here. Now, is this citation correct? APA citation in text. So you can answer in the chat box. Let's see. Okay, so the answer is, oh, people are still answering. Okay.
Good, they are listening.
Yep. All right, so it is incorrect. Okay. Now, let's go for B. Also incorrect. Okay, so like I said earlier, it has to be alphabetical, and also APA citation, the word and is replaced with the symbol. Okay, so these are common mistakes that we see in but Harvard citation, the word and would be correct, right? So pay attention to those kind of details. So that is the first mistake, right? The second mistake that I often see is overusing or wrongly using terms in your thesis or your academic paper. So when we write or when we read academic papers, we see the word therefore, thus, hence, accordingly. You know, we love using those words. I personally like to use them too correctly, right? So let's try not to overuse them. Every sentence does not need a thus or a hence, okay? And we do not need to use the word very often. So like say very high, very low, the situation is very critical, right? The word very there does not add a lot of value to the problem. I understand that you are trying to make the problem look very serious, isn't it? So I'm using the word very now when I'm talking to you. But look for substitutes. No, very serious can be critical.
Yeah.
Very high can be exponential, right? So the word can reflect the impact of what you're trying to deliver. I also see people saying it is important to study this, it is important, it is necessary.
Yep.
Yes, we know it's important. That's why you're doing this research. Okay, so let's try to use better words, not overuse these words. Another problem I see is the use of conjunctive adverbs, right? So I'm not a grammar freak in the sense of I don't know what is past participle, present, conjunctive, all that. I know the basics, but I know what to use for academic writing, right? So conjunctive adverbs are words like however, likewise, accordingly, despite of. So they have different meanings. So what I have seen in the last few weeks, I read a couple of papers, is that they use the word however and likewise similarly in the same. So however is a contrast, right? However means opposite of what you're trying to say. So A said this, however B found the opposite. And likewise is similarity. So always know what the word means. Okay, and also another thing I often see is a mixture of British and American spelling in the same manuscript. So typically, if there's a Z, the letter Z or Z in the word, it's American. And if it's longer, it's British, right? So behavior or color, COLOUR, is British. So most manuscripts allow you to either use either one, but consistently throughout,
Yep.
right? So that's important to take note. So this one is something I just grabbed from Google search, but there are so many resources out there like this, right? So for you to always go and check what do those words mean. So thence, for, therefore, hence, accordingly, then, all this prelude, effect, or a cause, right? So know what are the meanings. So contrasting words are like however, rather, instead of, in spite of. Okay, so use these resources. Everything is a click away nowadays. So there's no excuse not to know. Okay, right. So mistake number 3 is something we all have fallen into at some point. Trying to sound academic, trying to use big, important words. Okay, so my idea, even when I was lecturing, I used to tell my students the same thing, and I tell my clients the same thing. Never ever put a word in your thesis or your article or your slide that you cannot define or explain to someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I know some words are difficult. So either use a dictionary, learn what the word means, and understand why it's necessary in your paper, or don't use it at all. Okay, so I make it a point when my students are presenting, I will ask, if I see a word that's so bombastic, it doesn't seem that it needs to be there. I make sure in the Q&A I ask them, what does this word mean? And most of them, they don't know. Okay, so you don't have to use great, big, complicated words. Okay, big words do not guarantee that the writing is of good quality.
Yeah.
Okay, especially academic writing, we prefer simple, direct, to the point language. Okay, so how to solve this? Let's kiss lah. So what I mean by kiss is keep it simple, silly. Okay, so this is something I always say. Keep it simple, right? So academic writing does not have to be flowery,
Right.
as simple as possible. Okay, right. So when you're trying to write an academic paper, you want to be word bay, sprinkle some fancy words inside. So I'm telling you again, no, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, in fact, as a proofreader, I'm not impressed when I see a lot of big words, because it often comes with other problems, right? So which I'll explain later. Okay, the fourth mistake that I often see is sacrificing the quality of your work to make your work longer. Okay, so like I just said, academic writing should be concise, So sometimes in articles, the journal usually gives you a word limit, right? So sometimes you cannot reach the word limit, or you don't know what to put in. Or in your thesis, you want to make your thesis very long. Wow. So you want people to say, wow, what a thick thesis. Great lah, you did such a lot of research, you know. So no, let's not do that. So longer does not mean better. So like I said, keep it short. So what I often see is also this, the writer will state something another scholar has found and then repeat the finding in their own words. So that is actually repetition, it's not necessary. So Brown found that leadership has an impact on performance. Then you say, does leadership really does affect performance? Not necessary, unless you are summarizing many at the same time. So you do not have to give your own words for every single uh, sentence that you are, or every single finding of earlier scholars. So that will avoid, and you don't have to repeat your point in the next paragraph as well. Okay. So let's avoid repetition. Let's not try to make it too long. Okay, now this is my personal pet peeve. This makes me the angriest as a proofreader, as an editor. This is the one thing that makes me very emotional, emotional. So now there's a lot of development in technology, in software. We have a lot of aids to help us in writing. So now, as good as they are, it can also be the worst possible thing you do for your thesis. And I will show you why in a while. Okay, so the thing is, this kind of software does not understand the context of your research. It understands grammar, it understands synonyms, replacing one word with the other, but it does not know your work, right? So it can completely change the meaning and flow of your work. So for creative writing, that's fine, because we are not beholden to certain variables. But in research, your variables are your framework. That is the main crux of your research.
Yeah.
Right? So for them, so the word organizational commitment, if you put it in a thesaurus software or paraphrasing software, it can completely become something else. You lose the entire variable. So I'll show you an example in a minute, right? So use it with caution. You know your work better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example, right? So can everyone see this? This is Grammarly.
Yep.
Okay, so right. So I added this earlier, right? Food wastage is very good. Food wastage creates job satisfaction. It's beneficial as there are no starving people, no suffering people in the world. So who wrote this? A clown in 2020. Okay, the clown is me lah. I wrote it. All right. So as you can see, Grammarly says no issues found. Very good. No problem. Right. But we know that that sentence does not make sense. It's a grammatically perfect sentence, but it does not make sense as an academic, or if you're writing about food wastage. So even if I were to create a typo here on purpose, see, okay, so it's calculating. So it lets me know that there's a mistake. So it is beneficial, or it was beneficial. Now, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know which to put. It is beneficial or it was beneficial. Both are grammatically correct.
Yep.
Okay, but you are the one who knows whether it is currently happening or it's in the past.
Yep.
Okay, so never disregard the human element. So be very careful when you use software like this. Now, this is another tool. It's a paraphrasing tool. Okay, philbot.com. There are many such softwares online. So let's say I wrote here, organizational commitment and job satisfaction are important factors in retention and performance. They can reduce turnover, intention, and improve productivity. So please note here, organizational commitment is your key variable. Job satisfaction is a key variable. Employee performance return, these are all words that you cannot change in your thesis. It is your main construct. Okay, turnover, intention, employee productivity. Now, let's see what answer they gave us. This is what students do when they want to avoid plagiarism, reduce the plagiarism index. I understand that, but you see what it did. So organizational commitment became corporate engagement. Totally different meaning. For those who are in the business research field, you know what I mean, right? Okay, so job satisfaction became work satisfaction. The turnover intention became intention to sell. Sell
Wow.
what? Right? So I hope you get what I'm trying to say, that you still need to be very, very cautious of using paraphrasing software and any other software. Okay? So I'll go back to my original screen. Okay, is everyone back on the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I said. Use it with caution. It can help you with spelling. It can help you with minor grammar issues. But yeah, if you're going to take just copy paste like 1,000, 5,000 words, put it into the software and expect that it's going to come out perfect, sorry to burst your bubble. It's not going to happen. Okay. Right. So that is my top 5 academic writing mistakes that I want everyone to avoid and to learn from. Right. So let's go into the next section. So tensed about tenses, past, present, and future.
Yep.
Okay. So this can get very confusing. Okay. When to use past tense, when to use present tense. Even as I'm writing, I need to keep checking whether I'm in the right flow or not. So simple rule of thumb is, of course, past tense reflects what has been done, what previous scholars have done. So Brown discovered, established, revealed. So because they did it earlier, okay. So they discovered it last year. So they discovered that employees need motivation, example. When you are writing your thesis, it also can be used to describe what you have done. So this research found that, we found that, our findings indicated, the analysis suggests that, Okay, so that is past tense. Now, when it comes to present tense, you must always remember, is it true today? Is it still applicable today? So even though the researchers did research in the past, their findings are still relevant today, right? You can still say Brown found last year that employees are productive when they engage in their jobs, present tense, okay? If you want to say Brown found that employees were productive when they engaged in their jobs, it implies that it doesn't apply anymore. Okay, we don't want that. Okay, unless you want to say they were productive when they engaged in their job in that particular situation when tested last year. If you have a time variable there, then it's fine. Okay, so our research discovered that job satisfaction increases employees' performance. So all this suggesting future studies recommended to, all this would be present tense. Okay, but also this comes back to context. So this is general rule of thumb, but it can also go on a case-by-case basis. Now, future tense is very rare unless you are doing a thesis proposal. So your chapter 1, 2, 3, when you're very ambitious, before you do your data collection, you think, wow, I'm going to do such amazing research, data collection will be easy, right? So that's when you use future tense. You say data will be collected from 1,000 people, 1,000 tourists, I can get that much, right? So the study will examine, the data will be collected. Now, when it comes to journal articles, future tense is quite rare unless you are describing, in your introduction section, you are describing, this study will add value to the literature, or this study will contribute to practitioners, and so on. Okay, so that is usually how past and present work. So now, when in doubt or you're not sure, always ask yourself, what you are talking about, has it already been done, or is it an ongoing thing? So is the research already done, or is the research still going on? Are you still doing it? And also if it still holds true today. So for example, Hofstede is a cultural researcher, right? We all have heard of Hofstede. And Hofstede has found cultural dimensions that affect people's behavior. Okay, so a lot of people say uh, power distance makes people more deferential towards power. So we still use it in the present tense because it still holds true today. People, we have not disproved what Hofstede said, even though it was from the 80s. Okay, so just always ask yourself that, is it still true today? Can we still apply it today?
Yep.
Now, so that's all for tenses. Okay, now plagiarism and paraphrasing. Right. So let's say how to avoid plagiarism. So this is an issue, right? Of course, I get a lot of orders for paraphrasing, saying, my similarity index is too high. Journal wants 10%, journal wants 15%. Now, why this occurs is either because you have obviously copy pasted, you have plagiarized, or you are using certain terms that is being detected as plagiarism, right? So when you use the word job satisfaction, corporate engagement, etc., right, that can be detected as plagiarism. So what you should do is, I'm going to say what I said again earlier, do not rely on the software. Okay? You can use thesaurus, right? Thesaurus are very useful things. You can use it to substitute words, but like I said, make sure you know what it means. Find out what it means first, right? Use your own words. Okay, so this is actually easier said than done lah. I know it's easy to say, just use your own words, write yourself, but not everybody has that ability. So that's the thing, you understand. Understanding is the key to writing. Understand what you're writing, use your own words, and don't worry about the grammar or whether what you're saying is grammatically perfect sentence structure. Get it out first, put it on paper first, write it down first, and then you can worry about making it a proper paragraph. Okay, so like I said, some words are detected as plagiarism. So what you can do is use abbreviations. So for example, perceived behavioral control, which is a variable from the model of theory of planned behavior, right? So you can substitute that with the word PBC. So abbreviations will not be detected. Okay, or you can use quotes. If you have something that is you really cannot paraphrase it, it's very critical to your research, use quotes. But some plagiarism detectors still don't excuse quotes. Quotes are still detected as plagiarism. So you have to account for that. Okay, another idea is to condense your sources, right? So when you have this article, you have 5 articles. Take what you want from each, put it on a piece of paper or on a document, and synthesize it into one paragraph or sentence. Okay, so take what you need. You don't have to take exactly what they said. So synthesize, do your own analysis. Okay, another useful idea is to change the active voice to the passive voice or vice versa. So this is the lazy guy's hack lah. Okay, so Brown found that motivation affects employee performance. You can flip it around and say employee performance has been found to be influenced by motivation. Okay, so this is an easy way to get started, but it does not apply to all sentences, which is why you still need to do your own analysis. Okay, and like I said earlier, be concise. You don't have to write as long as the source that you're taking it from. Okay, so let's say you find a nice paragraph, nice theoretical explanation from this article. If it's 10 sentences, you don't have to make it 10 sentences. Break it down into what you just need and make it shorter. Okay. Now we have come to the final subtopic. So I think I speak too fast. You're worried about time, right? But that's okay. More time for Q&A.
Yep.
Okay, so constructing an effective paragraph. In academic writing, not all paragraphs are the same. Okay, for problem statement, we have certain way of writing. For discussion, for results, we have certain way of writing. Okay, so but a general rule of thumb is, of course, as you would have seen in other writing workshops and all, start with a good topic sentence. State clearly at the beginning of each paragraph what that paragraph is going to be about. Okay, for example, there's a lack of research and the factors that influence employee performance. Then bring in your literature, support it with findings and research data or facts. Okay, so scholars have found this people have found that. If there are contradictory findings, include that as well. However, these people have found this, right? So put all that in, and then at the end, add your analysis. Okay, however, little is known about this. Okay, so keep that as a formula. Statement, support with literature, add your analysis. Okay, that is the best way to go about it. And some other tips is that you must always use suitable words. So what I see is that they just put two very contradictory or very unrelated sentences one after the other. Okay, so think of your thesis as a storybook. Of course, don't, with an academic storybook. You want to make sure one sentence flows to the next. There must be a nice flow, a nice storyline.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the problem to the solution to your findings. Okay, so use nice words. So like I said earlier, don't overuse the word therefore, hence, however, but use them correctly. Know when they must come into the situation. Okay, the next is sections and subsections are your friends, paragraphs are your friends. You don't have to write very, very long paragraphs, which are, 1-page, 2-page paragraphs. It's very psychological. When you put a subsection, automatically the reader breaks up in their, in their mind, they have also segmented that section away. So that makes it as though you are not just combining things that are unrelated. Okay, so use paragraphs and subsections wisely.
Mm.
And of course, I'm sure your parents, your mother, your father, your grandparents, your friends, everyone has been telling you this since you were a child. Read, read, read,
Mm.
isn't it? So, but it's true. The more you read, the better you write. Read one thesis, read two theses, read 10 problem statements. You will know how yours needs to flow.
Yeah.
Okay, so find good examples and read.
Mm.
Okay, and of course identify your weak areas. So if you're writing, your problem is with grammar, then try to improve your grammar. Use this kind of grammarly or whatever to help in what you are weak with, right? If your problem is with constructing an argument, then you need to work on that. So like I said, practice and reading. And
Mm.
of course, finally, seek help if you need. So that's where editors, proofreaders come in, right? If you have done your absolute best and but your grammar is limited and your English knowledge is limited, then you need to find external help
Mm.
from a friend or a supervisor or a proofreader. Okay, so that is all. Thank you, and I hope that was useful, helpful.
Thank you so much, Risi. We have a few questions, but as we discuss all these questions, um, the participants feel free to ask questions. We still have about half an hour. So we
Yeah,
definitely want
see, I
to
told you I speak too fast. I was worried. I had too many slides, but you see.
get as much. Yeah, so that's good. That's good. Now, let's look at the first question.
Mhm,
It's from Keipo. After hearing the discussion on the use of tenses in the manuscripts,
mhm.
I wonder why some peer reviewers insist to use
To use
past tense
past tense.
in the manuscript. Well, not all reviewers are good reviewers, but anyway, Lizzie, how would you respond to this question?
I think what you mean is that peer reviews insist to use past tense for what you have done. I think when you're reporting your findings, right? So they want it to make it look like your entire work, that article is completely in the past. So even
Mm.
your findings are in the past, right?
Mm.
So we discovered that this and this, we found this and this. So it can be by context. Like I said again, it goes by the context.
Mm.
Um, but if I were to cite your paper in the future, I would say that Keppel discovered that food wastage is detrimental to society. I would use the word is, right?
Mm.
But in her paper, she might have to say we discovered that data is detrimental. But I'm not sure what she means. But peer
Yeah.
reviewers insisted to use past tense for which sections, right?
Mm.
Maybe they said for what you have done, use past tense. Because
Mm.
I do see a lot of authors who write articles, they tend to say in the abstract, they say, our research examines, our aim is to examine. So
Mm.
that is wrong, right? Your research has already examined the
Mm.
situation, the problem. Your aim was, you already achieved that aim.
Mm.
Okay, so maybe that's what Keppel is unsure about.
So, Risi, it is
Mhm.
possible to use two tenses in a sentence
Yeah,
and to use two tenses in a paragraph. It all
it is.
depends on you know what the context is.
Yeah, so I would use past tense to say what you did. So Dr. Hiram discovered, that's
Mm.
past tense,
Mm.
that, and then I would use present tense to describe your findings
Mm.
because your findings are still true today.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Now, what about in chapter 3, methodology,
Mhm.
when the author described what was done in the past, so they use past tense.
Yep.
But in the same paragraph, when they describe something, it is a general statement. Why qualitative approach is more suitable than quantitative
Mhm,
approach?
mhm, mhm.
Could that be? Should the author use past tense or present tense?
So when you are describing qualitative research in general, then you
Mm.
use present tense because whatever you're saying still holds true today. So
Mm.
qualitative research is more suitable when you want to do in-depth studies. But
Yeah.
when you are relating it to your research context,
Mm.
then you must use past tense. So you
Okay.
would say,
Okay.
qualitative research was chosen for this study because and then it comes back to present tense because it is the best method to discover in-depth data,
Okay. So I
which
hope
was suitable with this research, right?
that's good. That's good. I hope all the participants are clear with this. It is possible to have two tenses in one sentence in one
Yeah.
paragraph.
Yep.
Even the chapter on methodology, even though in general we know it is about what what we did in the past, but it is possible to use present tense whenever
Yeah,
we describe something that holds true, that still applies
yeah,
to.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
like, for example, a lot of the chapter 4, everybody loves to cite had all. Favorite citation ever, right?
Okay.
Had all, Ramaya had all.
Ramaya.
So yeah, right. So you were a co-author on that. Yeah. So that's the thing. What they recommended, whatever guidelines they provided, are still relevant today.
Yep.
You used it for your research, so you say this research used Hare et al.'s guidelines,
Mm,
but you would say Hare et al. Recommend that this be done.
mm.
That discriminant validity, convergent validity. You
Yeah.
wouldn't say they recommended or they it had to be that way.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
All right.
Let's move on to the next question. It
Yep.
is a short one.
Mhm.
How to make storyline? I guess it is about how to improve story.
Okay. So think of a movie. When you watch a movie, how does it start, right? Or even when you read a storybook, it always starts with a problem. You introduce the characters and then you introduce this problem. The families don't agree. They want to marry each other,
Mm,
right? So always start with that story. So start with your research background, introduce your characters, your industry, your variables, and then come to the problem. So what is the problem here? Without a problem, there's no research,
mm,
right? So introduce the conflict, the problem, justify it with the literature, and
mm,
then tell the story of how you are going to solve that problem.
mm,
And by solving it, what is the benefit to industry and to academics,
mm, mm,
right?
mm.
So the storyline must go like that. So it's very systematic, and then your literature review also would go from variable A to variable B, and then the link between the both, right?
Yep.
So I think that's a big topic for another day, right? We have to map it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. It is related to what you said earlier, right? It's important to write first, but you don't expect your writing to be perfect. After writing is done, D-O-N-E done, then
Yeah,
you spend time to edit, polish,
yeah,
So in order to improve the storyline.
yeah.
So
So
okay.
the storyline won't be there immediately, as you
Hmm.
said, right? It comes with the editing.
Okay, that's great.
So thank you,
So
Sarah Chowdhury.
that's from Sarah.
Yeah.
So the next question is from let's see, Putri Pahana Nadira.
Hmm.
Any tips to create a smooth flow on thesis?
So same thing, right? Almost
Yeah.
the same question. Right. So, like I said, headings and subheadings are your best friend. So,
Yep.
your smooth flow will be, of course, first you go by chapters,
Mm,
and then you go within the chapters, you go by subheadings. Subheadings are also pretty fixed, right? You have your introduction, research problem, or problem statement, research questions, objectives.
mm,
So, each chapter has to relate to the earlier chapter. So, when
mm.
I read your chapter 5 or chapter 6, I must say, wow, they found a solution to the problem they stated in chapter 1,
Yep. Yep.
right? So that's the idea. So each chapter must be related to the next, and then
Mm.
use subheadings within the chapters to make it flow.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Next question. Of course, there are many comments about your presentation, so I will skip that. uh,
I'll read all that later.
all right. Yep. Another question from Ren.
Hmm.
Doctor, I was advised to be consistent on using active and passive word,
Hmm.
voice, I guess.
Hmm.
What's your take on this?
Okay, so I understand that a lot of academic cultures all over the world, they don't like the use of the active voice as yet. They don't like us to say we or I
Mm,
in your academic writing. Although now it's becoming more progressive, I see more journals using that. Uh, but yeah, like what I showed earlier, there was no problem with I or we. So I think when you have been advised not to use active, it means that they don't want you to use first person pronouns. Like don't say I or we.
mm,
But you can still say the authors. You can still say the authors found that, or it was found by the authors. You can still
mm.
flip that without compromising that for personal pronoun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I did come across a comment from the
Mm-hmm.
reviewers. This is
Mm-hmm.
what Dr. Risi said earlier. Too many sentences beginning with "it is important that," "it is necessary that."
Yes.
So that could be another reason. So thank you for that. So
Yeah.
let's move on to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
From Kwan Pek Kwan. Should the
Mm-hmm.
literature review be drafted in past tense and
As we cited.
when we cite previous findings? Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So again, I will repeat what I said
Mm,
earlier. So the literature review will be both. So like I said, the first half of the sentence will be in past tense. Scholar A and B found, scholar A and B established, confirmed,
yep.
explained. They did all this in the past. But the
Mm,
second half of the sentence will still be in present tense because
mm,
whatever they found, whatever they explained is still true today.
mm,
So Dr. Hiram found that tourism industry is currently experiencing challenges,
mm,
etc. So
mm.
I wouldn't say Dr. Hiram found that the tourism industry was experiencing,
Yeah.
right?
Mm,
It's still happening, but it's still true.
yep. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. Let's move on to the next from Pankaj Kumar. When
Sure.
the case study is used, what tense should we use in case study? That is qualitative research.
Research. When you are explaining what you found,
Mm,
back to the same rule. So you will explain it in past tense. So in a case study, you will explain whatever procedures you did, whatever people said to you, all that will be in past tense.
mm,
Your end conclusions, your findings at the end, that will be in present tense,
mm, mm.
right? But a case study, yes, it's an interesting question because case study will be mostly in past tense, unlike a quantitative research where you're citing other researchers' findings,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
So for case study, if
Mhm,
it is if they are explaining something that happened in the past,
mhm,
so normally past tense,
mhm.
so that should be quite straightforward.
Yeah, so like even in qualitative papers like interviews, focus groups,
Mm,
when you want to quote what an interviewee has said, you
mm,
would use it do in the past tense. So interviewee one said that or explained that, and then
mm, mm, mm.
present the quote, right?
Now, interesting about what you just said.
Mhm,
If the author is describing what the interviewee said,
mhm.
should it be past tense or present tense? I mean, on one hand, what he said was in the past, but what he
Mhm.
said still holds true
So
today.
today,
So in
yeah.
that case, what tense should we use?
So you would use past tense to describe what he's going to say. So you say interviewee one explained, past tense explained that, and then the quotation will be in present tense.
Okay,
Or
okay,
unless they are describing an experience, because most
yep,
interviewees talk about their previous experiences,
right,
it's not their current feeling. So
correct.
for example, I did a paper on quarantines, right? So I think Dr. Chia's paper, Dr. Chia's here. uh, so you would say that the interviewee explained that during the quarantine they were
Right.
given limited access because they have already experienced that.
Mm,
So again, ask yourself, is it still true today? Are they still in quarantine today? No,
mm,
they are
mm.
talking about the experiences that already happened, done.
Okay, okay, that's great. Okay, this is a comment, not a question, but I think I should read.
Mm-hmm.
Please do another session for the storyboard. Thank you
Mm-hmm.
in advance. So we will not see, we will definitely see you again
Ah,
in the future. Yep,
yeah.
let's see what else we can do to benefit.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to speak about the storyline, right?
Yep.
Because when I was doing my PhD research as well, of course, uh, I had these similar struggles in the beginning where my supervisor would say the story is not flowing, right? The
Mm,
story is not flowing. So it took
mm,
me a while to understand what does she mean? What's the story? Why is it not flowing?
mm.
Right. So now as I've read a lot more theses and articles, I wish I had read all this before, which is why I'm telling everyone, read,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Read as much as you can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, I
Now,
think
next
there's one
question
more.
from
Yeah.
Muhammad
Mm.
Saman. Tips for strong, impressive, and attractive problem statement.
Looks like you're
We
looking
need a
for a
normal one.
girl. You want a strong, impressive, attractive problem statement. Yeah, so strong, impressive, attractive. Number one, the problem has to be serious.
Yeah.
It has to be a real, critical problem. So what I've seen is sometimes it's very obvious when authors or students or researchers try to create a problem that's not there,
Yeah.
right? Because they keep using the words, it's very serious, it is very critical, it is very necessary, but I'm not seeing any evidence to back that up,
Right. Right.
right? So number one, the problem has to be real. Number two, the problem has to be supported by industry reports, literature, right? The more evidence you can provide, the stronger your problem becomes. So use a lot of statistics. Problem statement is where you bring in all your, weapon, ammunition. What are the statistics? What is the proof that this problem exists? Okay. And
Yeah.
third, of course, is that there must be a gap, right? So the problem exists and you have evidence to support the problem.
Right.
Now, the third question is, can you solve it? Is it a doable, feasible thing? Right? So then you must bring in the gap. Yes, there's a gap. I need to solve it because this doesn't exist. There's a missing thing.
Yep.
Right?
Now, Rishi, I know reading and writing, these are the two, these are the keys, like it or not. Now, my question is, often we find a situation where we have to use a lot of words to explain what the problem is. But for some people, like you, I mean, in your presentation today, you seem to be able to use less words, but the right words in order to make the problem clear. Is there any other way apart from reading and writing to learn that, to master that skill faster?
Hire a proofreader.
Okay.
No, I'm joking. No, yes. I wouldn't say it's a skill per se. Practice lah. I mean, that's all I can say. Basically, practice. Always edit. So this is where the editing process comes in, right? In the beginning, you might take a lot of time to get your words out, to get your idea out. Then you read it again. You read it again, and take out anything that's not necessary, right? So it comes back to the editing process. So when you really know your work, you will realize that you don't need that many words to convey what you're trying to say, so it's a self-editing process. Maybe in the beginning you take 10 rounds of editing. Maybe the next article you do, you only take 6 rounds, 5 rounds, right?
Okay, fair enough. So let's move on to the next question by Leslie. If I'm writing for my proposal, what tense should I be using in general?
Okay, so for chapter 1 in a proposal, you are going to describe the problem, right? So the problem will be in present tense because you're trying to say that this problem exists, right? But when you go to your research objectives, your research question, your research significance, your scope of study, all this will be in future tense because you haven't done it yet.
Right.
So you will say, therefore, this study is going to examine, this study will be investigating, right? Future tense. Chapter 2, literature review, will still apply the existing rules. Past tense for what has already been done, and present tense for findings that are still true today. Chapter 3, again, methodology, will go back to a lot of future tense. You will be saying this data will be collected, this study will be using the qualitative approach, right?
Okay.
So it varies from chapter to chapter.
Okay. More questions coming in. Next question, can you from Hannah, can you recommend websites that we can use to check for plagiarism?
I don't actually, because I don't,
Don't use.
I don't use, even for my own thesis, I only check plagiarism at the end using the Turnitin, right? Turnitin that was assigned to me. And I did my referencing all manually. I had over 200 references. I don't trust software. I think you should understand that by now. Right?
Okay.
But websites to check for plagiarism, I think if you Google so many pop up. So everything is just a click away now. So just try around different websites and see.
Okay, yep. Next question from Nofitri. I'm starting to write my thesis, but I don't have idea how to start a starting sentence, I guess.
Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Even if it's point form, just do it. You don't have to worry about the starting of a sentence, beautiful sentence and all that. Just write first. Just write whatever you have first.
I mean, even if you have to throw the whole thing away the next day,
it's okay. It's okay. Just put it out there first.
Yep. Okay. Right? Next question from Prakash Kumar. When the organization X exists, then there should be in present or past tense.
If you are talking about, I think is the person referring to a case study. Organization X exists. So if the organization exists and you are talking about a current issue within the organization, then of course it will be in present tense. But if you are talking about what you did in the organization, like the author studied organization X. The author used organization X as a case study, and that would be in past tense because you already went and studied the organization.
Okay, okay, that's great. The question on material, I will talk to Dr. Risi, and then we will let you know. Okay, so we will skip that question for now.
Okay.
Next question from Marianne. Will doing annotation bibliography help improve our academic writing?
To be honest, I don't think so. I think bibliography and writing are two very different things.
Yep.
Of course, it's important to cite. So, like I said, read. If you're putting something in your bibliography, that means you are reading that material. So, of course, the more you read, it's better for your writing. But I think a bibliography on its own does not have any significant effect on writing.
Yeah. Okay. Next question from Muhammad. I sometimes think that instead of spending a lot of time editing and paraphrasing my article, I rather use professional proofread service.
I mean, but if paraphrasing and editing is expensive, okay? So, like you see, writing and editing is supposed to be your job. So, and proofreading is the final job. So, proofreading is cheap. It's much cheaper than editing or and writing, because you are giving your job to someone else, right? You're outsourcing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, please try to do it yourself first.
Well, my general advice is be careful with proofreaders, language editors out there.
Yeah.
Those who know me, I rarely employ any of them. This is the first workshop that we actually, invite a proofreader, Dr. Risi, to speak to us. So be careful with that. I've seen a lot of works where the so-called edited works are not really impressive at all. So do what you need to do. For journal articles, sometimes I like to work with authors from Western countries. On one hand, we do things together. On the other hand, he or she helps with the language.
Language,
So
yeah.
there are many ways to do things.
Yeah.
But make sure if you find a proofreader, a good editor, it has to be someone really good. Okay, so you have someone.
Trustworthy, reliable, because my thing is you are giving something very precious to you when your thesis or your article is something very private. It's a very personal document, I would say, right? So the issue of trust, the issue of integrity is very important.
Yeah.
And of course, after that comes the issue of quality of work.
Mm.
So to the best of your ability, try to do paraphrasing, editing yourself. Proofreading at the end, yes, everyone needs proofreading, because even if your English is good, you typos, all that is accidental. You don't see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so protect the integrity of your work. It's your baby, so you don't simply give the babysitter.
Yeah. And it is a learning process.
Yeah.
So don't take the opportunity to learn in the process.
Yeah.
So, okay, another question from Sarah. Any shortcut? Well, shortcut to enhance our writing skills. It takes a lot of time to write something, months to write properly.
Yes,
Well,
the shortcut is to work hard at it.
I, I mean, months would be a luxury. So I think the only shortcut is to what? Write and read continuously.
The shortcut is to not do it at all, give it to someone else. Yeah, I think, like I said, practice makes perfect, right?
Yeah.
Compared to when I started doing editing, and now I work much faster than I used to,
All right.
isn't it? And I'm sure all of you have experienced that in your field of work. The more you do something, the easier it becomes,
Yeah.
right? So, like Doctor said, it's a learning process.
Mm.
So there's no shortcut. I mean, if you are in the academic industry, there's no such thing as shortcut. You should know by now, right?
Yep. Thank you so much. Now, is there any question? No, I think that's all.
Okay.
Well, almost 3:30, so we keep our time well.
Yeah, short and
Any
sweet.
final words from you, Risi?
Well, I hope everyone learned something today, because this what I spoke today is purely based from my experience, what I've seen very commonly. Because if you Google writing tips or common mistakes, you will find a lot of things out there. But
Yeah.
I think to our context, the Asian context especially, these are the common issues, right? These
Right.
are the common things that we fall into. So early prevention
Mm,
is good for you and for your supervisor, for your colleagues, for your publications.
mm.
So yeah, I really hope everyone did learn something, and I hope everyone is keeping safe. Uh, yeah. So, and yes, as you said, please be very careful when you do choose a proofreader.
Mm.
I cannot bash any of my colleagues or industry mates, and I cannot speak for anyone. But yes,
Yep, yep.
careful. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Risi, for
Thank you
very,
so
very
much.
fruitful, speech sharing presentation. We definitely have a lot to learn from you and from from writing, from reading. We have to
Mhm.
take responsibility. It is our learning process, but at the same time, we have to utilize the resources out there
Yep.
to make us improve. Now, personally, I treat this as my English lesson class
Of the
English
day.
class as well. So it's good to learn all this. Now, for those who have registered, we will email e-certificate to all of you few days later. Give us a few days. This session is also recorded, so the video, the link will be made available. We will tell you where it is on SRS Facebook group. So if you have any questions, feel free to. Now, Risi, do you like to leave your email address?
Yeah,
Um,
I'll just type it right
yeah,
here.
you can just type in the chat
To
room. Yep.
everyone. Okay.
So a lot of comments to showing the appreciation to you. So
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I'm reading everything. Thank
uh,
you so much, everyone. Thank you.
okay, I think that's all. Dr. Risi, once again, thank you so much. Stay
Thank
safe
you for having me.
in KL, wherever you are at the moment,
Klang, yeah. Klang is the
and
red zone. Very dangerous here.
yeah, in Kuching as well, unfortunately.
Mm.
Now, for all the participants, wherever you are, stay safe. Hopefully, we will see you again in the future. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much.
for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.